What's poppin'? I'm King the Lady. I'm a licensed professional counselor and relationship and self-love expert. Welcome to season 1, episode 1 of Sincerely Love, the podcast. Sincerely Love the brand is for the heartbroken, for those that are dauntlessly loving, for those that are relentlessly seeking healthy relationships, and those that are navigating and maintaining healthy relationships, and for people struggling to love themselves more and wanting to give themselves more grace and compassion as they do for other people. A lot of my past plays a huge role in the birth of Sincerely Love, the brand, because I've had my ups and downs with relationships, with friendships, and even loving myself more. And it really stemmed from my self-image as a child, from calling myself an ugly duckling to being 5'10" and 3/4 in 5th grade, because I've been this height since 5th grade. And you could imagine being the tallest, largest person in your class when everyone else is like 4 feet. You're like 5'11". Can be very nerve-wracking, especially to a young girl. And so I really had to work on loving myself more and accepting who I was and what I was able to bring to a space as I grew and matured as not only a person but a young woman. And I realized the differences that I didn't like about myself and the flaws or the characteristics about myself that I saw as flaws were attributed to my perception of self, thinking that I was a duck when all along I was a swan. I didn't fit in to the group of people that I was hanging around. I didn't fit into the environment that I was in, and I thought that something was wrong with me when really I just wasn't in the right environment. It's kind of like an Amazon package. Like, you could be the right package but at the wrong door. And so I really learned, like, I'm the right package. I'm just in the wrong space. And it took years of me growing and learning more about myself to understand that. When I was in middle school, we would have new kids come to school all the time, especially living in Texas. We would always have new people. And so when we had new girls coming to the school, the guys would bet on who would smash first, who would get her number first, who would be able to talk to her first. And I was able to take all of this in because I was somewhat of an outcast. I like to say I was the alternative black girl. I listened to punk rock. I was emo. I was goth. I wore black eyeshadow, black nails, like just very I was into grunge. Like, grunge core was my thing. My mom would buy me clothes for school and I would cut them shits up. I would cut up all my clothes and I would piss my mama off. I had these sock gloves. I took some black socks and I cut the tops of them, the long socks. I cut the tops of them and I cut like little slits. I had a slit right here and I cut a slit for my thumb. And I wore them every single day, and my mom hated those sock gloves. And I remember washing them and she threw them away. And I was so pissed. I was like, "You threw my sock gloves away, And I slammed the door. I slammed the door, y'all. I came back home the next day and I didn't have a door. I didn't have a door to my room for like months. And my grandma and my mama was like, "You gonna get enough of watching those Lifetime movies? You not no kids on TV." And so I really learned a lot. But point being is, I was that black kid at school. So I was able to take in a lot of what the other kids was doing and how they were treating one another. So I vowed that when I was the new girl at school, I wanted to be mysterious. I wanted to be the girl that everybody wanted because she was new, she was fresh, but nobody could get. And when I moved to Louisiana in high school, I was that girl. Period. I was that girl. Come on, okay. Double entendre. But yeah, I was the mysterious new girl that nobody could talk to. So my first boyfriend in high school, I never wanted to talk to him, like ever. I was not even remotely physically attracted to him. And I remember he showered me with gifts all of the time. And even when we were just friends, this one Valentine's Day, he had his sister drive up to the school. And I was like, what's so-and-so doing up here, you know? And she drives up, he calls me to the car, and he pulls out like this huge life-size teddy bear with like flowers and candy and like gift boxes and all this shit. And I was like, this is for me. This is so nice. Like, just felt really pampered. And everybody, we was outside because we was waiting on the buses. So everybody was looking, and it was like, so-and-so got that for her. Like, you know, everybody, you could hear the chatter, right? And I felt really important. Like, all these eyes are on me because somebody is showering me with something. And I felt very, very special and very important. But from that situation, I realized that just because somebody is spending their money on you, it does not equate to their commitment to you, their love for you, or the loyalty that they're going to have for you, because that situation turned out poorly in the end in terms of loyalty. And I really learned to not necessarily devalue money in my relationships, because we live in a capitalist society. It's very important to have money and to be able to provide, especially as a man, because that's a value of mine. But I learned to allow money to take a back seat when it came to how I correlated someone's love or equated their love for me as a person. Money definitely takes a back seat now. I dated this other guy, and in this experience, it was my first experience with domestic violence. In this relationship, I kind of felt like the mama from Daddy's Little Girls, you know, the Tyler Perry movie. And, you know, it's this one scene. When I think about that relationship, this one scene comes to mind. It's the scene where they was in a penthouse, you know, because it's the mama, and then he's sitting on side. She had a drug dealer boyfriend. He's sitting on side of her, and she's sitting like this. She's like, yeah, you know, and the camera kind of pans out, and it shows how they're in this penthouse, they're in this high rise, and they're above like all the other people beneath them that are kind of scared of them. And in this relationship, I felt like them girls' mama, whatever her character name was, I felt like her, because I felt just very much empowered. Like, he was the nigga in clubs knocking niggas out, you know. Now, mind you, we was in high school, yes, but in this rural part of Louisiana, if you got a fake ID, if you know somebody that knows somebody, you can get into certain clubs, certain popular clubs. And that's what he was doing in high school, which is why I don't understand the backlash that Euphoria gets, because there are parents that I get they don't want their children watching something that could be, children are very susceptible. And you might watch something and you might get an idea in your head, and you might want to try the things that you're watching on television. But the news flash is a lot of kids are already doing those things. The show just highlights a lot of what your children are doing, what I did when I was in high school, especially with the domestic violence aspect that was shown in Euphoria. Because even though I felt very powerful in that relationship, I don't think that it was conducive to a healthy dynamic in relationships, specifically because this relationship taught me how toxic I was too. So again, he's the nigga that knocks niggas out, right? And he graduated a couple years before me. So I'm a cheerleader, you know, it's football, it's Friday night football. And him, his homeboys, everybody at the school, one of his homeboys called me a bitch in an interaction that we had together. And as soon as he called me a bitch, I was like, oh, I'm about to tell my man, woo, 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 woo. And my soul was just on fire, like, yeah, he about to get it. So I went to my boyfriend at the time and I was like, so and so called me a bitch. And before I could even get the story out of my mouth, he was trotting. I'm talking about he took off to do this man something. And my soul was just like, yeah, he about to hurt him in front of all of these people. And like, even just saying it now, I feel kind of bad. Like, you really wanted this person to get knocked out. You really wanted them to get like hurt in front of these school kids in their family at this family event. That it sounds horrible even coming out of my mouth now. But I digress. So he goes and talks to the man. He comes back to me and he's like, let me ask you something. Did you call so-and-so a bitch first? And my first reaction was like, what the fuck does that matter? That don't matter. And he was like, nah, I need to know, did you call so-and-so a bitch first? And I was like, yeah. And in my mind, I rightfully call this person a bitch because we're having a heated exchange. And he said the most profound thing to me for a abuser, for a woman beater. He said, I was manipulating him because I knew that he was a loose cannon. I knew that he could be chaotic and that he would just basically shoot off like a firecracker and wouldn't ask no questions about something. And he felt like I was putting him in a bind with his friend that didn't need to happen. They had an exchange that didn't need to happen because I felt entitled to this protection from him based on a situation that I caused. And that was the first moment that I really took a look at myself and was like, bitch, you're toxic. And even now, I kind of, just telling the story, I'm like, I get a little razzle dazzle out of that. Like, my man gonna fight for me, bitch, so don't play. Come on now, the toxicity is still there. I'm a therapist, but I think a little toxicity is still healthy to a certain extent. But yeah, so I learned that just because someone can protect you, it doesn't mean that they have to exert a certain level of unhealthy protection, or it doesn't have to be this toxic masculinity associated with it. And if that's something that you crave, you really need to take a look at yourself, bitch, because you probably toxic too, not just that nigga. Okay. So yeah, I think going to college really, it kind of put to the forefront of what I dealt with as a kid, not having my dad around, because I was seeking guys that had 2-parent households and not really like knowing it. It was like a subconscious dating rule that I had, like you had to come from this 2-parent well-to-do background. And I dated this Nigerian guy. Let me tell you, I had an African phase where I was just like all about African niggas. I was like, these niggas take you out on dates and they take you and get you whatever you want. Like, I want me an African nigga. I'm sick of these American niggas. They don't know how to treat no bitch, And this is before I found out that I was Nigerian, by the way. And so we were dating. Again, he 2-parent household, well-to-do background. And from this experience, I learned that I was trying to date someone to fill the void that I had of not having my dad in my childhood, instead of dating someone that I really wanted to be with. Because even though I was very intoxicated by this person, I didn't want to actually be in a relationship with them for the right reasons. I wanted to be with him because he was a good guy and he came from a 2-parent background, and it was something different than what I came from. And he reminded me every chance that he got that I did not come from a 2-parent household, and I didn't like how it made me feel. I didn't like how it made me feel about my family. And so just as much as I was seeking somebody that came from a 2-parent household, I learned that it's people that come from that familial dynamic that are equally seeking not to be with someone that doesn't come from a 2-parent household, because they assume that this person comes with baggage, which I did at the time, I'm not gonna lie. But they assume that this person comes with baggage, that they are ill-equipped to be a sufficient partner or parent to their future children. And that's not fair, because just because I come from a certain background doesn't determine where I'm going in my life. And it's also not fair to the person that comes from a 2-parent household, because that also doesn't determine where they're going in their lives either. So even though my nigga now got 2 parents, his daddy tenured at a university. Okay, so looks like I still got what I wanted, but I digress, But yeah, so this other guy that I dated in college, let me see, I thought college was going to be just this. I thought it was going to be like Drumline, girl. I thought I was going to meet somebody. We was going to both join. He was going to join a fraternity. I was going to join a sorority. And we was going to get married. And we was going to stroll at our wedding. Some Hollywood shit, And that is not what college was like for me. Actually, when I talked to people that I knew in college, they remember me as the girl that used to walk with her headphones on and sing and carry her guitar. And that's quite sad. But looking back on it, I actually like being by myself. I liked going to class with my guitar and singing my songs. But I guess to those people, like, I looked very lonely and alone. And it's funny because a lot of times that's how I felt in college, just very lonely. And so what I thought college was going to be like was not that at all. But when I met this guy my freshman year, I was like, this could be the one, bitch. He an alpha. Like a ice cold. I was like, he an alpha. Okay. And so we would be on again, off again. And when we would be on, I'm talking about we was on. And when we would be off, we would be off. We did not share the same core beliefs. We didn't share the same values at the time. My perspectives on life used to infuriate him to no end. And so we just didn't align on that regard, but the sex was bomb. Okay. Talking about every time we would be off. And when I would see him at an on-campus event, at a frat party, at just anywhere, I would see him. And it would be like meeting him for the very first time. And I think that's a mutual feeling that we've had because we've had this conversation before. And it's like meeting each other for the very first time. You know how you meet somebody that just, they light your soul on fire. Like the sexual chemistry is just always there. There's tension, always like this passion about the relationship. And that's what that was. Like, I used to dress up like a pinup doll, like a hula girl, and just do all type of shit. And from that experience, the first thing is that I realized I should not be dressing up and doing all this role play and doing all this shit for a nigga that's not mine. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I am dating someone, pursuing someone that I clearly don't share any values or core beliefs or perspectives with. Well, some, but the ones that matter to actually build a life and create the life that I want, we don't align at all. But I'm trying to make it work with this person because they fit a narrative that I thought my life would look like. I'm trying to place this person in a movie role. And life ain't no fucking Disney movie. This ain't no Disney princess shit. I wish, but it's not. It's real life. And yes, I have standards. Yes, I have preferences. And I do have an ideal for what I want my life to look like. But I'm not fitting or molding anyone in this position. If you fit, you fit. And if you don't, you gotta go. Period. So after that nigga, I had a roster. I was just like, fuck it. I'm focused on settling and trying to be married and trying to do all this shit for what? I'm in my 20s. I'm young, hot, and I'm popping. So why am I trying to settle down and be fucking? I used to want to be like Felicia Rashad so bad. I was like, Claire was just that bitch. I'm trying to be Claire, And I really took a step and I was like, Felicia Rashad is Felicia Rashad in this moment because she's older than me. She's seasoned. She's lived her 20s. She's lived her life. And you trying to live like 50-year-old Felicia Rashad when you 22. That don't make sense. Get your roster up. Have fun. Pop your shit. So that's what I did. I had a nigga to take me out to eat. I had a nigga to come to my house and fix shit, do little handyman shit. I had a nigga to fix my car. He was the manager of like an auto mechanic place, and I ain't have to worry about no oil changes, not a goddamn thing. I had this married man. Disclaimer, they was in an open relationship, okay? And their open relationship was very interesting to me because we would be out at all times of night doing shit, and I used to be like, what does your wife, like, I know y'all in an open relationship, but like, it couldn't be me. I don't think that I enjoy the idea of poly and openness and freedom in some context, but not the context that their relationship was operating on. And so, but for me, it was, especially 20-year-old me, I was like, I'm popping. He would call and he'd be like, hey, what you doing, I'm like, oh, nothing, I'm chilling, I'm doing schoolwork because I was getting my master's, I'm an educated bitch. And so I'd be like, oh, I'm doing schoolwork. And he would be like, okay, well, get dressed. I'm going to pick you up by 8. And I would try to, kind of refute it a little bit. And I'd be like, well, I'm doing something. I'm busy, da-da-da. And he'd be like, you're not doing that. What you doing? You busy for real? You need me to drop you off something? And in my mind, I'm like, nigga, no. You're not about to drop me off. Shit, I'm about to go. Okay? I'll be dressed. I'll be ready at 8. I'm just playing. And so we would go out. We would valet. We would VIP, just, and I really enjoyed that experience because I didn't have to think about shit. I didn't have to do shit. And a lot of times we would go out with him and his homeboys, and I was the only like woman there. And I would get like really dressed up. I'm talking about to the 9s. Give me my 10s. And the guys would be looking like kind of like lusting looking in a way. And I felt like a trophy wife. And I had to tell myself, you're not this nigga's wife because one, his wife is at home. This is the reason why you're here. You're eye candy. And even though I love that, I, again, don't want to be eye candy for a nigga that's not mine. Like, I want to be the trophy wife to my actual husband. So with this roster of men, even though I did get a lot out of it and I learned what I liked, what I didn't like, and I wish that I could build a nigga like Build a Bear, but you can't. I realized that I am not a city girl. I am not for the streets. I'm not all this love that I want to give. I want to give to one person. One person. That's it. Give a nice, wholesome black man some black ass babies and call it a day. Sit on my veranda, watch my animals, like Jody Mama. Watch my rose bushes and my corn and my squash grow. That's what I want. I don't want to be in the motherfucking streets. That ain't for me. I'm sorry. It just ain't, But how you have an ideal of the life you want to live. In that ideal or in that vision, you're living in a particular place. And Atlanta was that for me. I researched for an entire year the gym I was going to go to, the acting classes, the singing lessons I was going to take. And I moved and I did everything I said I was going to do. But Atlanta just was not it for me. It's like a melting pot. And even though that's a good thing in a way, because it's like, you have so many diverse people, you get to learn from people from different backgrounds. And it sounds good in theory, but I just feel like all the fraudulent, ain't shit ass, selfish ass, conniving ass people got together and said, you know what? Atlanta. Yep. I think I'm going to move to Atlanta and scam. That's it. That's the ticket. And it's just like, Lemon Pepper Island is just not for me. It's not. And so I am so grateful that God brought me back on home to Texas. And I know we got a lot of shit with Texas and diversity and all that, but let me tell you, Texas is home. It gives very Southern belle, just Southern hospitality, and Atlanta don't give that. I dated a guy. I thought he had a degree from Georgia State, a business. I thought he was moving into a high rise across from Lenox Mall. Let me tell you something. The man had no degree. He had no business. I thought he had 2 kids. He actually had 13. I hightailed it out of Atlanta in a rental car because my car got shot up, my bank accounts got closed. Listen, the amount of trust issues, for lack of a better word, that I gained, and I do say gained because they still heavy. In that situation, I would do background checks on the niggas that I was dating, on their parents. I'd be like, what's your mama name? Oh, okay, that's cute, And I would search their parents' name. I would have their date of birth, their address, all the address they lived at. I was making people sign NDAs, all type of shit. And so in that situation, I really learned that you do not truly know anybody. Like, they could show you a piece of, I'm looking at emails that say, oh, this nigga about to move into a high rise. I'm looking at pictures and fake fucking degrees. And it's like, you really cannot trust anything, it seems like. So you really have to use your discernment, not just when you're dating, but when you're interacting with people in general, especially when you have a light to you. Because a lot of people think, oh, I have a light about myself and God is going to use that light and that's true. But you got to realize manipulators and abusers are also attracted to light because they want to drain you of that light to use it for themselves. Come on, somebody. So, fuck Atlanta. Moral of the story. But yeah, you know how after that situation, I became like really intentional about my dating. And, people tell you, write your list. Write it out, make it plain, as my grandma say, And so I made my list. And us, when we make our lists, a lot of times we be like, oh, I want, 6 foot money making nigga, 6 figure, that's my type of nigga, But I wanted those things, but I also wanted somebody I could wake up in the morning and listen to Bob Proctor while we drink coffee and tea together, meditate together, and talk about life and stocks and building generational wealth and all that shit. And so people would always tell me, you're not going to find everything on your list. You're looking for perfect. People are not perfect. All this shit. And so when I met somebody that actually had everything on that list, it seems like I tried to make it work because initially when I met them, I was like, see, I did find everything on my list. Fuck you, motherfuckers that told me I couldn't find everything on my list. And so it became more about proving other people right about something versus what I actually wanted. And that person did have everything on my list, but there was so much more that was outside of that list that I didn't even factor in. Like, this person did not make me feel good about my body. This person was not understanding to when you're a woman and you're on your cycle, you may not feel like doing sexual things. And this person attempted to make me feel poorly about those things. So it's just so much, even when you create this list, that you may be missing. But not only that, I wanted this person to wake up and listen to Bob Proctor and do all those things because I like to do them. So when we first started dating, I feel like I fell in love with this person because we shared so much in common. But in reality, I fell in love with myself. Like, in hindsight, looking at that situation, I ain't like that nigga because he did all that shit. I liked it because it was a reflection of me. The fuck? So, fuck that list too. Fuck Atlanta and fuck that list. Because you write that list and a lot of times it ain't even what the fuck you need. Write you a list of values. Your top 10 values and the values you want the relationship to have. Because you can have your values, your partner can have their values, and the relationship as an existing thing outside of you has its own set of values. Date within that realm. That's what I learned from that. Fuck that list. Man. But I will say that situation led me to appreciate the partner that I am currently with. Mommy. Because he just makes me feel good about my body. He makes me feel good about what I'm doing in life, pursuing my dreams. I mean, that nigga is just it. Take a pause for the cause for my man. But I will say that even though this is a healthy relationship, we definitely have our ups and downs for sure. We have our arguments. And the relationship was very triggering. Like we talk about, you need to get into a good, healthy relationship, especially if you've experienced domestic violence or abuse in some regard. Get into a good, healthy relationship. It'll be good for you. And even though I agree with that, we don't talk enough about how triggering that healthy relationship could be, because the skills that I was using to survive a physically abusive and an emotionally or verbal abusive relationship that I was in are not the same skills that are going to be befitting to this healthy relationship I'm in. And I didn't realize that until I got into the relationship. And a lot of people will tell you, you need to seek help. You need to seek therapy and healing before you get into these relationships. And as a therapist, I would say the same thing too. But what we need to remember is that you can gain skills, tools, and unpack and process in therapy. And that's good. That's for you, right? But it is not until you expose yourself to situations or to relationships that you can actually implement the shit that you're talking about in therapy. How are you going to see what's what and who's who if you don't know how to actually applicate the shit that you're learning in therapy? You don't unpack and process and learn skills and tools and then say, you know what? Well, I'm just not going to deal with that shit no more in life. Like, fuck no. Life is going to life and shit is going to come up again. And when you're triggered, that's when you utilize those skills. And so as a therapist, going through my own healing and my own reconditioning of my nervous system, I was doing a lot of crazy ass shit at the beginning of my relationship. And I'm very grateful to my partner for being patient and kind and understanding of what I had to experience internally and what I had to work on in order for our relationship to get to the next level. And I'm not saying that he was just so patient and kind and he didn't have his own shit, but it was more about me. Like, this is more about me. So even though he has his own shit that, yes, needs to be worked on too, it's very important to remember that what you bring to the table in a relationship could ruin something that's potentially good for you. Like, self-sabotage is a real fucking thing, because I was pushing this nigga away because I did not know how to handle all of the love, affection, and support he was giving me. Because I was like, this shit is fake. What the fuck? This is not like what I'm used to. Get this shit the fuck away from me. And when we broke up, one of the times I was just like, yeah, I need my nigga back. I gotta stop tripping. I was like, yeah. No, remember, bitch, you are not a city bitch, and this nigga is good for you. Go get your nigga back. And I remember he broke up with my ass, y'all. And I drove 5 hours away because we were long distance. I drove and I went and got my nigga back, because fuck that. I'd be damned if I let some shit that 50 million other niggas did to me years ago affect my happiness right the fuck now. Fuck that. No, not gonna happen. So, in a nutshell, sincerely love is for people looking to get past the heartbreak, get past their issues with loving themselves, and looking for community, essentially, with people that have gone through those experiences and they are navigating life well now. Like, yes, it's still going to be ups and downs, but it's about having a communal space where we can tell stories and give our testimonies, where other people can resonate with those stories and with those testimonies, so that they can heal and grow in their own way as well, and understand that they are not alone in their experience. So if you're truly a lover at heart, follow the season for more, because I'm talking about the season gonna be topsy-turvy with all type of bullshit. This is not even the half of the shit that I have gone through and learned from. But we'll get into it more in the season. And I hope that the true lovers out there will join us. Sincerely, love.